Lord, hear our cry. Come, heal our land. Breathe life into these dry and thirsty souls. Lord, hear our prayer. Come, heal our land. As we call on your name, would you make this a place for your glory to dwell? Open the blind eyes, unlock the deaf ears. Come to your people as we draw near. Hear us from heaven. Touch our generation. We are your people, crying out in desperation. Lord, hear our cry. Come, heal our land. Breathe life into these dry and thirsty souls. Lord, hear our prayer. Come, heal our land. As we call on your name, would you make this a place for your glory to dwell? Open the blind eyes, unlock the deaf ears. Come to your people as we draw near. Hear us from heaven, touch our generation. We are your people, crying out in desperation. Today, the church celebrates the World Day of the Sick, and we are gathered here this morning to partake in the graces our good Lord wishes to impart on us today. In the church's liturgical calendar, today is also the memorial of the feast of Our Lady of Lourdes. The church chose this day to celebrate World Day of the Sick because of Mary's apparition at Lourdes and the healing graces we receive from this event. Our Lady of Lourdes is the story about how Mary appeared to a 14-year-old Benedict Subiru, a poor French girl. What relates specifically to our celebration today is the spring Our Lady showed Benedict during one of her apparitions on February 25th, 1858. Since that time, many thousands of pilgrims to Lourdes have followed the instruction of Our Lady of Lourdes to drink at the spring and wash in it. I believe that the Knights of Malta will be distributing this holy water from Lourdes to everyone after Mass. Thank you for doing this, and thank you for your presence. In John's Gospel, chapter 10, at verse 10, Jesus says, I have come that they may have life and have it in abundance. Christ came to give us salvation. He imparts his salvation by means of the sacraments, and especially in the case of those suffering from sickness or disability, by means of the grace of the sacrament of the sick. For each individual, suffering is always something alien. It can never be tamed. That is why it is hard to bear, and harder still, as certain great witnesses of Christ's holiness have done, to welcome it as a significant element in our vocation, or to accept, as Benedict expressed it, to suffer everything in silence in order to please Jesus. To be able to say that it is necessary to have traveled a long way already in union with Jesus. Here and now, though it is possible to entrust oneself to God's mercy as manifested through the grace of the sacrament of the sick, Bernadette herself, in the course of a life that was often marked by sickness, received this sacrament 4 times. The grace of this sacrament consists in welcoming Christ, the healer, into ourselves. However, Christ is not a healer in the manner of the world. In order to heal us, he does not remain outside the suffering that is experienced. He eases it by coming to dwell within the one stricken by illness, to bear it and live it with him. Christ's presence comes to break the isolation which pain induces. Man no longer bears his burden alone. You know, the greatest suffering is when you suffer and you are alone. But Jesus comes to us in this sacrament to be inside of us, to help us through this journey and give us peace and give us comfort and bring us his healing. As a suffering member of Christ, man no longer bears his burden alone. As a suffering member of Christ, he is conformed to Christ in his self-offering to the Father, and he participates in him in the coming to birth of the new creation. Without the Lord's help, the yoke of sickness and suffering weighs down on us cruelly. By receiving the sacrament of the sick, we seek to carry no other yoke than that of Christ, strengthened through his promise to us, as his yoke will be easy to carry and his burden light. I invite those who are to receive the sacrament of the sick during this Mass to enter into a hope of this kind. The Second Vatican Council presented Mary as the figure in whom the entire mystery of the Church is typified. Her personal journey outlines the profile of the Church, which is called to be just as attentive to those who suffer as she herself was. I extend an affectionate greeting to those working in the areas of public health and nursing, all the caregivers, as well as those who in different ways in hospitals and other institutions are contributing to the care of the sick with competence and generosity. We have people who do this every day, every morning. We have 2 ladies who bring our friend Resurrection to church so that she can receive communion. A day like this, we want to thank them for their love, for their sacrifice, for their care. May you always sense in this important and delicate mission the effective and fraternal support of our community. Finally, let us pray that the good Lord will visit each one of us with his healing mercy during the course of our celebration.